Where? See, he walks up the steps, man. Okay. Hey, Vince. All right. Good morning. We are here today to announce that we have filed a petition with the Commonwealth Court to have PA Act 192 declared unconstitutional and to have its enforcement permanently enjoined. As you know, Act 192, prior to being Act 192, was House Bill 80. It was originally a bill which imposed penalties upon those who engaged in the theft of secondary metals, such as wire, pipe, or cable commonly used by communications, gas or electrical utilities, or railroads. It was a fairly uncontroversial piece of legislation which passed the House of Representatives by a 197-2 vote. In the Senate, due to various problems with other bills the Senate leadership wished to amend, on the last day of the legislative session for the year, House Bill 80 was chosen to receive an amendment on a completely unrelated topic. Specifically, House Bill 80 was amended to say that any person adversely affected by any ordinance, regulation, resolution, practice, or other action, or any membership organization in which a member is a person described previously in the bill, had standing to sue any municipality that passed a gun ordinance. It is important to unpack this a little bit. First, under this bill, who can sue? The bill says that any person adversely affected by a gun ordinance or gun action. Adversely affected in the bill is defined as any resident of the Commonwealth who may lawfully own a gun. The bill does not require any actual showing of harm to any individual. Literally any person who owns a gun anywhere in the state can sue any municipality anywhere in the state for for doing something with regards to guns. So for example, if someone in Forest County who has never been to Norristown doesn't like Norristown's actions with regard to a gun, they can sue Norristown and get counsel fees, costs of suit, and everything else. You don't have to live in the municipality you're suing or be subject to its laws. Second, what can you sue for? You can sue a municipality for any ordinance, regulation, resolution, practice, or other action. So even a resolution, which is a non-binding expression of a wish to see the law change in the future on the state or federal level, would subject you to being sued for damages. So even saying that you would like the law to be different with regards to guns can get you sued under this bill. The same is true with a practice. In my county, Montgomery County, they have a practice that nobody, for example, may bring a gun to a commissioner's meeting. Montgomery County could be sued for enforcing that practice. Third, not only can an individual sue and get damages, but the law allows any member organization to sue, and we all know what that is. Member organization is defined as any organization with any gun owner in Pennsylvania as a member. This provision was specifically designed to be a gift to the National Rifle Association. This allows the NRA, a Washington, D.C. based organization, to sue our own citizens for protecting themselves and their communities. Because after all, it is the citizens of the relevant municipalities who will pay the damages and counsel fees and costs of suit to the NRA. In my district, for example, the people of Norristown have a requirement that lost and stolen guns be reported. The people of Norristown, which is not an affluent community, will have to pay the NRA to sue them. The breadth and scope of this law is truly breathtaking. It is unprecedented and extreme. You would think that the people of the Commonwealth would want to weigh in while something as consequential as that is being considered. And the Constitution contemplates and protects the public's ability to do this by requiring a level of transparency and basic fairness in the manner in which we pass legislation. Specifically, Article 3, Section 3 of the Pennsylvania Constitution requires that bills passed pertain to a single subject. The section says, "No bill shall be passed containing more than one subject, which shall be clearly expressed in its title, except a general appropriations bill or a bill codifying or compiling a law or part thereof." Article 3, Section 1 says, "No law shall be passed except by bill, and no bill shall be so altered or amended on its passage through the House as to either house as to change its original purpose." There are reasons the Constitution demands this. The single subject rule limits the practice of log rolling, defined as the ability of legislators to put in distinct and separate and independent subjects of litigation as a means of disguising the primary purpose of the bill, or forcing legislators to vote on a bill that they may be very much in favor of in one particular and very much against in a totally unrelated particular. Finally, it is to allow reasonable transparency in the legislative process, to facilitate an accurate understanding of the bill by the public, so that they may effectively evaluate the bill and advocate to their legislators accordingly. An amendment wholly unrelated to the original purpose of the bill, inserted at the last minute of the last day at the behest of a rich and powerful special interest organization who demanded immediate action before a new governor was elected, and rushed through the legislature so fast that the governor wound up signing the wrong version of the bill, is not what the authors of the Constitution intended. It is important to note that this is a procedural lawsuit. Speaking for myself, I don't like the underlying bill, and I didn't vote for it. But there are a lot of bills I don't like, whose constitutionality I do not question in court. But the way this bill was passed was such an egregious violation of the basic rules of legislating that we felt compelled to act. I thank my co-plaintiffs in this and all the folks here today supporting this effort. I would also like to thank my old friend Martin Black, who couldn't be with us today, and his law firm Deckert, and Robert Masterson, who's here somewhere, for agreeing to take this case. We could not have better counsel. With that, I would like to ask Mayor Nutter to come up and say a few words.
Senator, notwithstanding your great leadership, you clearly have trouble with directions. It's a joke between the senator and I asked him to have the council president come up, which he completely ignored. Senator, thank you very, very much, Senator Leach, for your leadership. Senator Kitchen, great leader of the Philadelphia Senate delegation, Senator Hughes, Senator Farnese. Council President Clark, who is the author of numerous gun safety bills here in the city, Councilman Blackwell, Councilman Jones, Councilman Greenlee, my very, very good friend, Mayor Rick Gray, great mayor of Lancaster, and Congressman Fattah, who has been a leading champion on these issues. Shira Goodman, of course, Executive Director of Ceasefire PA, and he could not be with us today, but I want to recognize Mayor Bill Peduto, who's the mayor of Pittsburgh, and we issued a joint release opposing these amendments on October 20th. This is legislative madness. The legislative process in this regard is completely broken. As I said a month ago when these amendments were being considered, I am supremely opposed to the provisions added to the then bill, House Bill 80 in the Senate, which now purports to be Act number 192. In cities across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, gun violence represents a tragic epidemic, especially in some of Pennsylvania's poorest and toughest areas. Here in Philadelphia, while homicides continue to go down, we did suffer 247 individuals killed in the city of Philadelphia last year, 80+% of whom were killed with a handgun, all of which, those that were recovered, were illegal guns in the hands of people who should not have had them. In Philadelphia, our lawmakers here have implemented a number of ordinances and policies, like requirements regarding requiring lost or stolen firearms to be reported, or possession of firearms on city property, that address the proliferation of illegal guns while staying within the statutory framework set by the General Assembly. It bears noting that you cannot bring a weapon into the Capitol either. While any law can be tested in court, no one, much less resource-strapped municipalities and their respective taxpayers, should be singled out to bear markedly increased risks and costs for trying to protect human life. Under Act 192, it is now riskier for cities to act on matters of unlawful gun possession and related to violence than it is to act on a zoning matter. The General Assembly should not facilitate lawsuits against local governments simply to thwart their modest attempts to strike a balance between the rights of law-abiding citizens and their constitutional right to bear arms and reducing the number of illegal firearms on our streets. These ideas, these proposals, these efforts are not in conflict with each other. We can live in a scheme that allows people to bear arms under the Constitution while preventing illegal weapons to be in the hands of those who should not have them. The Pennsylvania Constitution already provides that the courts are open to all, and all ordinances are subject to the due process of law. There really is nothing more necessary to settle these disputes, and this act provides certain litigants with special treatment and imposes additional costs on taxpayers to defend lawfully approved local ordinances in our communities all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I cannot speak for my colleagues, although some may share in this, and I said this earlier at the Committee of 70. I've been in public office over 20 years, and one of the proudest moments of my time was being sued by the NRA in our efforts here in Philadelphia to make this city a safer place to live, work, raise our families, and for our children to grow and thrive. We will fight this effort at every possible step. We are doing the right thing, trying to make people safe. The NRA is wrong, again, as usual. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, I did hear your request to have the Council President speak first, but he requested that I have you speak first. So you got caught. And I'm more afraid of him than I am of you. So you did it, President. Next, continuing with our mayoral theme, we have, and also the gentleman has to catch a train, we have the Mayor of Lancaster, Mayor Gray.
Thank you. I speak today not just as Mayor of Lancaster, but also as Chair of the Pennsylvania Group of Mayors Against Illegal Guns, which are comprised of over 200 mayors in the state of Pennsylvania. I say that for a number of reasons. One, this is not a Philadelphia issue. This is not a Pittsburgh issue. Gun violence is not. It is a Pennsylvania issue. We have it in our smaller communities in Pennsylvania. Why mayors? Well, some of the council people, I'm sure, get these calls too. But we're the ones that get the calls at 10 or 11 o'clock on Friday night that someone's been shot from our police chief. We're the ones that go to the funerals. We're the ones that see the kid that was caught in the crossfire in the casket and have to talk to the parent. I tell the parents, and I've only had to do it twice, thank God, but I tell the parents, I'll do everything I can to make sure that nothing like this will happen again. That's part of what we did on the local level. Why Lancaster? Friday night, in a neighborhood bar in Lancaster, not known for any problems at all, two people get in an argument, a man pulls out a gun, a 54-year-old man is dead, a woman and another man are in the hospital right now. They had nothing to do with the argument. The individual who had the gun possessed it illegally. How did he get it? With a prior criminal record. That's what we're trying to do. When people say enforce the laws you have already, What am I going to tell the widow of that man that was shot? We'll enforce the laws. What we need is proactive action to keep guns from falling in the hands of people who would use them criminally. That's what we tried to do on the local level with some of the ordinances that are now being objected to. By the way, the statute provides that we can be sued. It doesn't say how many times we can be sued. A town the size of Lancaster, 20, 30, 40 lawsuits, we win them all. We don't have to pay the other side counsel fees. How much is that going to cost us? And how many more suits will be brought? This bill is nothing more than an attempt by the NRA and the gun lobby to bully smaller communities and larger communities into doing what they will, not based on the merits, but based on their ability to cost us money, precious money that we have to use for other more important public safety things at this time. So on behalf of the smaller communities in Pennsylvania, I want to thank Senator Leach for leading the charge on this, and also to the law firm of Deckard Law Firm for providing able counsel. I practiced law for 45 years. I was past president of the Pennsylvania Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys. I have never seen anything like this in the practice of law that would license anybody. And if I could, Senator, I think you made one mistake. I think you don't have to own a gun to sue. You just have to have the right to own a gun. So I could sue the mayor of Aliquippa, even though I don't have a gun, because I have the right to own a gun. This is unheard of in Pennsylvania and elsewhere in the law. We object to them frustrating our efforts in self-defense, in making our communities safer. They have taken it upon themselves to frustrate that. And the best defense is a good offense. So thank you, Senator Leach. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to emphasize a point that the mayor made about winning lawsuits. Keep in mind, these lawsuits for municipalities would be almost impossible to win, because you don't have to prove, as a plaintiff, the NRA doesn't have to prove that the law is unconstitutional or that it adversely affects anyone's right to keep and bear arms in any way. It just basically, if you have any policy at all with the word gun in it, that would be all they had to prove. With that, I will, at long last, get to the council president. No, I'm sorry, no, one more minute. We have Congressman Chaka Fattah. I know he has a busy schedule. He has to be in New York. Do you say a few words?
Well, I'm happy to be here and to join with Senator Leach in this effort and all of the others who have joined. Now, I know he said this is a procedural litigation, but it is much more than that in terms of the issues at hand, because for all of our municipalities in the state to be handcuffed in such a way from trying to protect in a limited way their citizens. And that's why I think you see an array of officials here. This law that the state has passed is an embarrassment to, I think, our state nationwide. And I think that the courts will be able to see through the thinly veiled attempt to change over this bill that came from the House on a totally different subject, as has been mentioned, and used for this purpose. So I'm happy to step in, but I don't want to delay the President of City Council, who's been just the leading advocate in our city's legislative body on public safety for a very long time. And we've worked together with so many members here on getting guns off our street through gun buybacks and through other types of efforts. But this litigation is so important. I wanted to be here to support my state senator. Those of you who don't know, I'm the congressman from Montgomery County. That's a joke. No, it's actually serious. I represent Montgomery County and Philadelphia in the Congress, and I wanted to join with Senator Leach in this effort and with all of my other senators, including the great state senator, Shirley Kitchen, who leads our delegation, and Senator Hughes, who's chair of appropriations, and Senator Farnese, who we also have contiguous districts together. Thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Actually, I was was quite comfortable with deferring to the other members because I actually work on the other side of the door, so I don't have to go anywhere. Thank you all so much, and thank you for bringing this very special team in today to have this conversation. I want to thank my colleagues and the mayor for helping us pass legislation years ago. We actually went to court, and we actually sued the then Governor Rendell and some members that are here on legislation relating to gun violence. This is interesting, and I'm going to bring it straight to the point. During the course, and speaking for Philadelphia, over the course of the last couple of decades, the number of victims, both themselves and families, have grown exponentially in terms of gun violence. And at some point, the citizens said, you have to do something, the local body. And we enacted legislation based on need, not because we didn't have anything else to do. We put together a series of measures that we thought targeted the ability for people to get access to guns, and the proliferation was clear based on statistics because people essentially were able to sell guns, give guns to people who should not have them. A crime was committed, and ultimately that gun would get traced back to the individual who owned it, purchased it initially, and when the police says, well, what happened to that gun? They say, I lost it. And that was the extent of the conversation. They did not have to account for anything relating to that lost and stolen gun because they didn't have to report it. And we enacted legislation very aggressively. People were overwhelmingly in support of what we've done. And I'm not in the practice, having had significant conversation over the last year, of being critical of legislative bodies because I think there's this level of respect between the legislative bodies. But I have to go off script on this one because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous when legislative bodies and executive branches across the state of Pennsylvania has attempted to save their citizens, right? And we're being told that we can't even have that conversation, Senator. That is totally ridiculous. So I want to say I really appreciate you bringing these folks together. We look forward to participating in this very significant date, and we'll look forward to our day in court. So I want to thank you all very much. Onward with the battle towards dealing with illegal weapons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, we have from Ceasefire PA, Shira Goodwin.
Thank you, Senator. Ceasefire PA has been fighting this legislation for years. And right before you all got here, there was a class of second graders here, and they couldn't stay. We asked them to stay for the press conference, but they asked what we were doing. And I said, much as Senator Leach did, but in simpler terms, the legislature has not followed its own rules about how we pass laws. And we have a group of legislators joining Senators Leach, Farnese, and Hughes, our Representatives Sherrell Parker and Ed Gainey, and mayors and cities saying to the legislature, you can't do this. You have to follow our own rules. And that's what this is about. We don't like the underlying law, but the truth is, if you're going to pass a bad law, you got to follow the rules. And we believe at Ceasefire that this is a hard issue. This is confusing. People don't understand what this law means. The other side says we're just trying to enforce the laws on the book. That's not what this is. It's unprecedented. But we spent a lot of time talking to the people of Pennsylvania, talking to mayors, talking to legislators, and that led to the situation that we're in now. Because people called their legislators, asked questions, it forced the other side into this corner where they have violated their own laws of procedure. They have done things in the middle of the night. They have added session days. They have gone so far and tried so fast that they have profoundly messed it up and had to have a re-signing by not only the governor, but the Speaker of the House and Lieutenant Governor Cawley as the presiding officer of the Senate. So they have also now given towns and cities extra time because the bill is now not effective until January of 2015 instead of in the middle of the Christmas, New Year's holiday. So if you're going to do something like this, something so unprecedented that creates new rights that nobody else has, by the way, you know, now everybody who can own a gun here can sue cities, but we can't sue cities for anything else. It only has to be about guns. No other group has this right. No other kind of law has a target on it like this. You got to do it the right way, and they didn't. And I want to applaud the senators and representatives for standing up to their colleagues and saying, this isn't how we do business. They're not sore losers. As Senator Leach said, they lose votes lots of times, and they don't sue the Commonwealth. They don't sue their colleagues. But in this case, they didn't follow the rules, and the Constitution is there for a reason. And unless our senators and representatives are willing to go back to pre-2005, pre-pay raise, and have the vileness that they were viewed with by this this Commonwealth, they need to learn a lesson, and I hope that this lawsuit will teach them that. We're proud to have been able to bring together so many towns and cities, so many Pennsylvanians fighting this, and to teach people about it, and we'll continue to support the senators and representatives and the mayors and town councils any way we can. It's a bad law. Bad policies and bad procedures equal bad laws. That's what happened here, but we have strong public servants who are willing to do the right thing, and we thank you.
Thank you. Next, the Chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, Vince Hughes.
If I could have my Senate colleagues join me, Senator Kitchen and Senator Farnese, and our new Senator Art Haywood, Farnese, Senator-elect Art Haywood, who will take office the first Tuesday of January. Congratulations, Art. I don't think any of us can provide any more detail than what has been provided already with respect to the wrongness of this legislation, the abuse that the National Rifle Association has taken in this piece of legislation. I think as probably, Mayor Nutter, as probably as our Mayor of Lancaster said, there are local communities, local townships, local cities who are struggling dramatically financially. We have our own budget difficulties in the city. We have our own budget difficulties in Harrisburg. But some of these local cities are in very serious economic crisis. And the fact that this law now is in existence places an undue burden on these local communities to protect themselves, not just from the guns, the violence of the guns, but the financial violence that also occurs in these communities. This is wrong legislation for every reason that has been delineated before us. But we need to be sympathetic and understand what is happening across Pennsylvania. More and more communities are growing concerned about the problems of gun violence. More and more of these local communities are taking action, local action, since they cannot get any assistance, cannot get any redress from the state. But unfortunately, more and more of these local communities are in serious financial crisis. And it really provides an extra burden that they have to overcome to protect the rights of their own citizens. Because that's all they're trying to do, is to protect the rights, the safety, and the security of their own citizens, since the state does not have the ability to do that for them. And this legislation places an undue burden on these individuals. We stand, and there are more of us across the state of Pennsylvania who feel the same way. We stand with this lawsuit, not just with our own city and our own regional communities, but in all of those communities that are struggling across Pennsylvania who've tried to do the right thing in a very serious financial situation. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to make any statements on top of that. Senator Kitchen?
On behalf of the Philadelphia delegation, we are just so glad that Senator Leach, our colleague, have stepped forth and with his resources, and we're working with him as a team. And I just want to say, what about the human side to this? What about the mothers who have lost children? What about the children who have been crippled from gunfire? How is this looking to our young people who's trying to make changes in the city for them? How does democracy look now when the city, when we take it upon ourselves and the other cities to take responsibility, and now we're told we cannot do that, it doesn't mean anything. I don't think it looks well at all. And we are, as my colleague said, both my colleagues, everybody really, we're going to do everything in our power to work along and to change this.
Senator Farnese.
Thank you, Senator Leach, and appreciate your leadership on this. We've been, seems like we've been down this road so many times, especially over the last several weeks. I'm just going to try to put a different spin on it, because I think the speakers before me have very well articulated the legal issues and the principles that are at issue here. But just think about this. The United States Constitution, Section 2, Article 4, talks about some of us believe one of the most critical privileges that we enjoy as citizens in this country, not just citizens of Pennsylvania, but citizens within the United States, and that is access to our courts, the ability to sue and defend, and what that brings with it within a lawsuit. And if you believe in the Constitution, and you believe in the Second Amendment, you believe in the First Amendment, and you believe in the entire United States Constitution, then you have to take a look at this and think how patently wrong it is to bestow those rights and privileges that up until a few weeks ago have only been afforded to citizens of the Commonwealth and citizens of the United States of America. The access to the courts, the privileges and immunities that we enjoy as citizens in this country, this is unprecedented, as other speakers have said, bestowing upon those rights access to an association to be able to go into court and to sue and to utilize our courts. And I think the second point, and I tried to articulate this on the floor that day, if you look at this, I originally thought that the goal or the object of the legislation, as soon as it became law, would be go after cities like Philadelphia and some of the other cities around the state, like most that have those ordinances. And it may well be, but think about this. The law guarantees the association a full range of damages, even if you withdraw the offending ordinance. So think about that. Within our system of American jurisprudence, and the other side has talked about this many, many times, there should be an encouragement to settle lawsuits, to try to bring parties to the table and negotiate a settlement, but not with this law. This law actually punishes that, because even if you withdraw the offending ordinance, you're still on the hook for attorney's fees, expert witness fees, costs, whatever else they sit and add. And can you imagine this? Can you imagine what the citizen hearing this right now who has been in a horrible accident or feels aggrieved, the opportunity to walk into court with a piece of paper and hand the judge and already have a finding of liability, already have a finding that you belong in court, and all the judge has to do is read what you have written on your piece of paper, and that's what your award is. In a nutshell, that's what this law does. And just to give you some context, at around the same time that they passed this, we tried in Philadelphia, an existing law, we tried to increase the penalty for illegally carrying an illegal gun. So illegally carrying a gun within the city of Philadelphia, we tried to increase the penalty for a 2-year mandatory minimum. We lost that. The same folks that were there to support abrogating the judicial's role on this bill voted against supporting an existing bill and making something that is already a crime an increased penalty. We chose not to protect people, but on the same day we passed a law that protected birds and pigeons. So I still, to this day, don't understand the thinking where we can protect pigeons, but we can't protect people. But that's what we did with one of the last hours of our time in Harrisburg. And that will go down, ladies and gentlemen, that will go down, protecting pigeons and not people, as one of the final acts that this administration took upon itself to advocate for. So kudos to them. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have Councilman Jones, who's chair of the Public Safety, Health and Safety Committee. And any other council people, I didn't do a poll if anyone wants to speak, but if you do, come forward. Otherwise, but at least stand with Councilman Jones.
I like what Senator Hughes did. Nothing can happen alone, and not even within our chambers, not even within the state, and we applaud the state for stepping up to the plate to deal with this tough issue. And not even in the halls of Congress can we do things alone. But there's a chilling website that I think it's the Philadelphia Inquirer has, and it red dots the number of murders each year. And if you press on those red dots, a name will appear. And in that name, the circumstances by which that individual was killed pops up. And if you ever go there, your life will change, because you'll realize these aren't statistics that are just cold numbers. These are people who had families, loved ones, who missed them. And if we don't do this, the very fabric of our society is in jeopardy, If you've ever heard the shrill of a mother who lost their child, it'll change. These people must have deaf ears that they don't hear these things. And if you've ever been to a teddy bear memorial and had to stand and explain to a parent why their child is no longer with them, they must be insensitized to the reality that each of us live every single day. So we applaud you, Senator, for stepping up to the plate, because it's not a Philly problem. It's not a Lancaster problem. It is a national problem. And until all of us stand together like we're doing right now, nothing will change. And this lawsuit, this is the best legal action that I've ever been a part of. And I applaud you. It can make more of a difference in a meaningful way to our constituents than just about anything. So thank you.
With that, I think we're done with the initial remarks. If there are any questions, not only of me, but of any people up here, we'd be happy to try to answer them. Yes?
Yes, I understand how the mayors have standing to bring this action. Why do legislators have standing?
We specifically have standing under the law because we have a right to vote on a bill with a single subject matter. Technically speaking, and I don't want to, when Councilman Jones talks about people who've lost loved ones, I don't want this to be misconstrued. Technically speaking, we are the aggrieved parties as legislators because we were not given the opportunity to vote on a bill that was constitutional. We were forced to vote on a bill in a matter that was unconstitutional, and that's why. And every case that deals with this, and there have been a lot of cases, there have been some major cases, the case involving the jury commissioners in 2013. There were cases, about 4 or 5 major Supreme Court cases dealing with the single subject rule in the last decade. All of them had the legislators, having standing to bring that suit. Anything else? All right. Well, I'm glad we were so comprehensive. Thank you so much.